In this video, we're going to talk about logical fallacies. First, what is a logical fallacy? A logical fallacy is like a trick or mistake in thinking. It's when someone uses an argument that might sound good, but if you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. Logical fallacies can be misleading because they use emotions or tricks, but when you look at them closely, they're not actually true. Let's start with some of the most common ones. The first one is the straw man fallacy. This fallacy occurs when your opponent oversimplifies or misrepresents your argument, that is, setting up a straw man, to make it easier to attack or refute. Instead of fully addressing your actual argument, speakers relying on this fallacy present a superficially similar, but ultimately not equal, version of your real stance, helping them create the illusion of easily defeating you. For example, someone can say, "We should invest more in improving our community parks to promote outdoor activities and healthier lifestyles." Now another person who's strawmanning this argument might say, "So are you saying we should spend all our money on parks and neglect our school and hospitals? That's a terrible idea." Here we can see that this statement misrepresents the first one. The person did not want to neglect hospitals and schools, they were just talking about the importance of parks. The bandwagon fallacy. Just because a significant population of people believe a proposition is true, does not automatically make it true. Popularity alone is not enough to validate an argument, though it's often used as a standalone justification of validity. Arguments in this style don't take into account whether or not the population validating the argument is actually qualified to do so, or if contrary evidence exists. For example, this is an advertisement for a new product. Join the thousands of people who already switched to drinking this energy drink. Don't miss out on the latest trend. Everyone is drinking this energy drink. So here, the advertiser is suggesting that just because many people are switching to this drink, you should too. However, popularity does not necessarily mean that the product is good. The appeal to authority fallacy. This happens when someone argues that a claim is true because an authority figure or expert says it's true, without providing additional evidence or reasoning. For example, "You should buy this brand of sneakers because a famous athlete says they are the best." Here, the athlete may be an expert in their field, but their expertise in sports doesn't necessarily make them an authority on sneakers or shoe quality. The hasty generalization fallacy. This one happens when someone draws a broad conclusion based on insufficient or limited evidence, often making a general statement about a whole group based on a small sample. For example, Fuad meets two students from Japan and both happen to be really good at math. So, the hasty generalization would be, "Japanese people are all good at math." So here Fuad jumped to the conclusion that all Japanese people are good at math, just because he met two Japanese students who are good at maths. The slothful induction fallacy. This happens when someone ignores or downplays relevant evidence that contradicts their conclusion, making a decision based on a selective presentation of information. For example, Mary is considering whether to invest in a particular company. She only looks at the positive financial reports and ignores negative reviews and reports about the company's unethical practices. Slothful induction. This company is a great investment. Their financial reports show consistent growth. In this example, Mary is committing the slothful induction fallacy by selectively focusing on positive information while neglecting negative aspects. A more thorough analysis should consider both positive and negative evidence for a more accurate decision. The correlation-causation fallacy. This happens when someone assumes that because two things happen together, which is correlation, one must cause the other, causation, without considering other factors that may be influencing the relationship. For example, you make an observation that ice cream sales and drowning incidents both increase during the summer. Correlation-causation fallacy. Eating ice cream causes more drownings. In this example, the fallacy happens because there's a correlation between ice cream sales and drowning incidents, but it's incorrect to conclude that eating ice cream causes drownings. The rise in both events is coincidental, and there could be other factors, such as warm weather, that contribute to both without causing the other. The fallacy is assuming a cause and effect relationship based only on correlation, which is wrong. The anecdotal evidence fallacy. This fallacy occurs when someone relies on personal anecdotes or stories or isolated examples to make a general conclusion, overlooking broader and more reliable evidence. For example, when someone says, "I know someone who smoked for 50 years and never got sick, therefore, smoking must not be harmful to health." In this example, the fallacy happens because the conclusion is based on the experience of one person, which may not represent the overall health risks associated with smoking. Anecdotal evidence is often limited and may not account for the experience of a larger population. The ad hominem fallacy. This one happens when someone attacks the person making an argument rather than addressing the actual content or merit of the argument itself. For example, if someone says, "We should invest more in renewable energy to combat climate change," another person may say, "You're just saying that because you work for a solar energy company. Your opinion can't be trusted. You're a liar, and you're only saying this for your own interest." In this example, instead of addressing the argument for investing in renewable energy, the response attacks the person by suggesting that he's biased and he just wants to do it because he works in that company. The tu quoque fallacy. This one is also known as the appeal to hypocrisy. This happens when someone dismisses another person's argument or criticism by pointing out that the person making the argument is guilty of the same behavior. For example, Alice advises Bob to stop smoking because it's unhealthy. The tu quoque fallacy would be if Bob says, "Well, you smoke too, so why should I listen to you?" In this example, instead of talking about the health risks of smoking, Bob deflects this by pointing out that Alice also smokes. If you'd like me to make part 2 of this video, please leave a comment. See you in the next one.